In 1917, on a quiet stretch of the Western Front, a young British officer named Geoffrey Walker stepped out of his trench. For months, he had stared across the deadly expanse of no man's land, knowing that the German lines opposite were an impenetrable fortress of machine guns and barbed wire. But today, something was different. The Germans had vanished. The order came to advance. For the first time, Walker climbed over his own parapet, not into a hail of bullets, but into a strange silence. He was moving into the very ground that had been a synonym for death, and what he found was something he could have never imagined. He called it a fairyland. The German trenches weren't destroyed. They were simply empty. Everything was perfectly in place. Machine gun posts sat exactly where British observers had seen their muzzle flashes. Barrels still aimed through narrow loopholes. Mortar pits were ready for action. It was a revelation. These weren't the muddy, chaotic ditches of the British lines. He walked through an intricate defensive world. The fire steps were neatly cut. Duckboards lined the floors to keep out the mud, and the walls were reinforced. Steep stairways led down into deep, timbered dugouts, complete with bunks, stoves, and even personal items left behind. British intelligence maps had only shown a vague outline. Walking through the system, Walker realized just how incomplete that picture had been. Hidden firing positions, cleverly camouflaged machine gun nests, and extra layers of wire were everywhere. He could now see the true, formidable strength of the position they had faced. The empty fortress was eerie, a powerful war machine that had suddenly been switched off. But this fairyland was hiding a sinister secret. The German withdrawal was a carefully laid trap. As British soldiers began to explore the abandoned line, they discovered the enemy's absence didn't mean the danger was gone. The trenches were riddled with booby traps. Some were brutally simple. Grenades were fixed to the inside of dugout doors, their pins held only by the weight of the hatch. An excited soldier pulling it open would unknowingly release the pin, and the grenade would detonate in the confined space. Thin tripwires were strung low across the trenches, ready to detonate a hidden charge with a single careless step. Others were far more devious, preying on human nature. Soldiers advancing through enemy territory were always on the lookout for souvenirs. The Germans had left behind tempting items, boxes of rations, hanging lanterns, and, most alluring of all, bottles of rum. But these were not prizes. Some of the bottles were wired to explosives. In one battalion that advanced before Walker's, men died simply for uncorking what they thought were captured rum jars, only to trigger a hidden charge that killed them on the spot. Suddenly, every instinct had to be unlearned. Curiosity was a death sentence. A neat bunk, a tool on a shelf, a bottle on a table, any of it could be a trap. Experienced NCOs shouted warnings at their men, "Don't touch anything." Sappers and engineers were called forward to painstakingly search every dugout, feeling for wires and probing suspicious patches of earth. The trenches that were once deadly because of the men defending them were now deadly because of what those men had left behind. The battlefield was strangely quiet. The only sounds were British boots on duckboards and the distant rumble of artillery. But beneath that silence, the entire system was saturated with latent violence. The war was no longer just about open fire. It was embedded in the very objects and doorways of this empty world. For Lieutenant Walker, this experience was a profound lesson. It showed him the incredible sophistication of the German defenses, far beyond what any map could convey. But it also taught him that a retreating enemy could turn their own abandoned lines into a minefield, using a soldier's fatigue and curiosity as the trigger. This eerie, silent fortress was a reminder that in this war, even a place that looked like a prize was still part of the battlefield. And sometimes, the most inviting part of the enemy's world was also the most treacherous. Thanks for watching. If you found this story from history interesting, be sure to like and subscribe for more.